I'm Rebecca McMahon, and I work with K-State Research and Extension. We're here today in the Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener's Demonstration Garden to talk about some tips for growing your vegetable garden this year. When you're getting ready to plant your garden, the first thing that you're going to have to do is figure out, are you going to be putting seeds into the ground or are you putting plants into the ground? The plants we often refer to as transplants, and you can either grow them yourself or you can purchase them from a garden center or nursery. The first place that I would recommend checking out is the vegetable crop information chart in the Kansas Garden Guide. If you go into that chart, for each vegetable that you might consider planting, you're going to be able to look and see, is it listed as best direct seeded or as transplanted? One of the things you'll notice when you look at the chart is that some vegetables are listed as seed or transplant. So now what do? How do you decide? If you go to chapter 15 in the Kansas Garden Guide, the vegetable crop chapter, this chapter goes vegetable by vegetable and tells you more details about each particular type of crop. So for example, if you're wondering about should I direct seed or transplant lettuce, you can go to the lettuce section and take a look in the planting time paragraph. That paragraph is going to give you more details and information about when and why you might choose seeds versus transplants. Before you ever plant your first plant in your garden, you're going to want to plan out what you're going to plant. And the very first step in the planning process is knowing how big your garden area is. So you're going to want to get a tape measure or a yardstick and some paper and a pencil so that you can measure and write down the dimensions of your garden. Once you have measured your garden space and have your map sketched out, you're going to want to start creating a map for your garden. Having that map can be really helpful when you're starting to make those decisions about what should I plant, how many plants do I need to purchase, how many seeds do I need to purchase, and do I really truly have space for all the things that I want to have in my garden this year. One of the things that I have found very helpful when creating a garden map to work off of is to make a grid on that map that's either a 1 by 1 foot grid so that I can plot out every single piece of my garden. Then you're going to want to start putting your plants into your garden. A lot of times it's easier to start with pencil and paper and then do something more detailed a little bit later. The next thing that you need to figure out is when do your different vegetables need to be planted. So we're going to refer to our average expected planting calendar in the garden guide to determine what vegetables should be planted when. Often, if you are going to have a more complicated or complex garden where you have early spring plantings followed by summer plantings and maybe even followed by fall plantings, you're going to want to possibly have two different planting plans, one for the early spring and one for the late spring or early summer. One of the things that you're going to want to do is both refer to chapter 15 and learn more about the particular vegetable crop you're interested in, but you're also maybe going to want to talk to your local extension office, your local master gardeners, or even an experienced gardener in your area to help gauge a little bit when exactly within that planting range portrayed on the calendar is going to be the best time for you to plant in your part of Kansas. On the vegetable crop information chart, there's a spot where it says the average spacing within the row. And this column in the vegetable crop table is going to tell you the range of spacings for a particular vegetable crop. When you're looking at the spacing information, it says spacing within the row. What it is actually telling you is the distance from the stem of one tomato plant to the stem of the next tomato plant. If I'm growing in a more intensive raised bed garden or very small garden where I'm not going to be walking in the garden area itself, then I'm typically going to just use the column that is the average in-row spacing for the plants to determine my plant spacings. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow K-State Research and Extension for more gardening tips.